Today we're going to talk about the benefits of fasting. So there's many benefits to fasting. People think that it's actually harmful, that fasting is bad for you, and for sure, as we mentioned before, we're just giving information. So if you need to talk to your doctor, it's always better to talk to your doctor than not talk to your doctor if you have those health conditions that we mentioned early on. So, but there are some key benefits to fasting. There's six major ones that I think are pretty incredible. That a lot of people, if they would do fasting more often or put it into their lifestyle, we'd have a lot less disease. So let's go through these. There's six biggies. We're going to go through each one. They're pretty exciting as we go. So first benefit of fasting is it helps you with detoxification. It gives your digestive tract a rest. So basically, a lot of times that you guys are having problems, the metabolic interference. So you're not even giving your body time to rest. So when you take time off and you're fasting, it actually resets the guts and the microbiome. So it rests that. And there's actually cellular repair that happens. There's a thing called autophagy, and that's that word right there, autophagy, where your cells, when they're rested from having to digest, your body switches to a mode where it takes up and scoops up all the garbage, all the bad white blood cells, all the additional collagen, all the additional amino acids, and basically starts chewing them up because your body starts giving you back all the stuff that's in there. So essentially what happens is your body's refreshing itself, and it refreshes the white blood cells. That's why we see a lot of times when people go through fasts, they'll have a reduction in some of their autoimmune conditions because it refreshes the immune system and refreshes the body. So the major benefit here is that it gives you a rest and helps you to detox and purify the body, and it resets the microbiome, which is pretty cool. Which, if you don't know what the microbiome is, it's all the bacteria in your guts. It actually changes the DNA along the way when you do fasting. Second one would be mental clarity. You would think that not having food in the system that you'd actually be confused. You will be for a little while until your body can start to learn how to use the fuel that's already there. But understand that 60% of your digestive tract, or 60% of the energy used by your nervous system, is actually in digestion. So when you give that system a break, you actually have more mental clarity. So you have that energy inside of you, but you're now not using it to digest food. So that's why a lot of times when people go through fasting, they have breakthroughs, or they come up with ideas just start coming to them. The other thing too is that there's major gene expression that happens in the brain that helps with longevity. So there's some, I think it's BDNF. That's one of the hormones or things that happens as you get an increase in gene expression. The other thing you need to know is that during fasting is the time when you grow brain cells and connections. And this would make sense, right? If you don't have food, think about this. If you don't have food, the last thing you want to happen is for your mental capacity to be dropping. You want your mental capacity to actually be ramping up. And recent studies show that when you're in a state of fasting, you actually build more brain cells and you build more synapses and connections. So you actually get smarter when you're fasting. So that's an interesting thing, that people are always eating all the time. And we have a lot of people that have very little common sense. So maybe they would do better with some fasting. The third major thing that happens is it reduces inflammation. It's a real hot topic today. That fasting is well documented to help those with osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. It actually, a 24-hour fast increases the stem cells in your guts. One of the things that we're talking about now with stem cells is they're injecting them everywhere, right? Well, your body produces them by reducing inflammation in the guts. You actually reducing your reaction to yourself. So when you have a reduction in food intake, you actually reduce that reaction to it. This happened to me. One of the ways I discovered I had a nutrient or a food sensitivity was with my first fast. I was getting headaches on a regular basis, and I removed food from the situation, and immediately my headaches went away. And what I found out was that I was very sensitive to a certain type of food, a health food, so to speak, that when reintroduced, it starts giving me problems again. So the other thing too is that reducing the inflammation reduces your majors, reduces heart disease, cancer, diabetes. These are all inflammatory kind of diseases that if you can reduce inflammation, you can actually reduce your chances of getting these diseases or developing these diseases over time. So really, really, that's one of the biggest things we see when people start fasting is a reduction in inflammation. And it's their own reactions, that the reaction to food, the bad reactions or bad white blood cells or bad cells in the body are reacting wrong. So when we start fasting, we actually reduce that inflammation. Number 4 is it reduces cravings. So at first, when you go through a fasting process, you'll have increased cravings for food. But when you get through that process where your body can dip into those fat stores that we talked about, eating out of the freezer, not the fridge, you actually will reduce overall cravings. And, the studies show people that are want to quit smoking, for example, if they go cold turkey, they just jump right in, they have a much better success rate. So it reduces cravings, reduces depression. All these things come when you start doing fasting. Whether that's intermittent, skip, block, or wet, doesn't matter. It actually reduces cravings and increases brain power. There's that hormone, that BDNF. It actually causes your brains to actually grow and get better and smarter. Number 5 is weight loss. A lot of people I know jump on the fasting bandwagon to actually get weight loss. It's very effective for that. It actually, because of the hormones that affects insulin sensitivity is the big one. So if you're constantly in a feed stage, when you're not in a fasting stage, basically your body stops hearing insulin. So you're not sensitive to insulin, so your body thinks you need more insulin, and as it's producing more insulin, you have higher and higher cravings for foods. So reducing and fasting actually makes you more sensitive to insulin, therefore reducing the need a lot of times for people who are taking insulin, or especially type 2 diabetics. It reduces their need for actually having to take insulin. The other thing too is it increases HGH. I've seen some studies that it increases it like 1,000-fold in 3 days. And that human growth hormone is what you use to gain muscle. So you have a real high level of HGH. You're becoming more sensitive to insulin. This is a recipe for you actually becoming lean and fit. So this is why fasting works real well. Intermittent fasting, some of the other fasting works real well to get your body back into shape, especially if it's been years. People are dealing with decades of damage here. So when you start going through fasting, you're repairing yourself little by little. 6.1 is tumor reduction and chemosensitivities. There's some studies out there that people that do fasting, 5 days of fasting before chemo treatments, actually have a reduced amount of sensitivities to the chemo itself. So this is a chart here from Dr. Longo, and he's done some studies where they take patients and they pull them. If they're in a fasted state, you can see that all of these markers are down. So people are reporting that they do much better with chemotherapy. And the reason why is because your body goes through a protective mechanism to protect itself during when you start reducing sugar and reducing that fuel source. You go through a protective mechanism. Well, cancer doesn't have that protective mechanism. So cancer essentially burns itself out. And there's now emerging research that shows that this really helps with tumor reduction, and it helps with chemosensitivities. When I went through a 15-day fast, I had a crazy mole that was on my stomach, and it had been changing over the last couple of years. And around day 12 of this fast, this thing it started bleeding around day 4, and it just wouldn't stop. And I was really concerned, like, what is this all about? And then on day 8, the thing just drops right off, and there's brand new skin. So it does, I know personally that it does chew up that autophagy, all that renewal of the cells. It does work, because it worked with me personally. But there's emerging research for cancer, and they're studying it now, that actually fasting really helps certain types of cancer. This is what happens. So you have the calorie intake goes down. You have all these metabolic adaptations, and then molecular adaptations. That's a lot of letters and a lot of words. And then the cell starts to respond to that. And then your incidence of cancer goes down. There's I cited this chart in this article, once again from Dr. Longo. So basically IGF-1 goes down. That's insulin growth factor 1, which high levels of those lead to higher levels of cancer. Insulin goes down, cortisol goes up a little bit. Your sex hormones go down when you start reducing. Oxidative stress goes down, inflammation goes down. all these things start to come in line and basically destroy cancer. So the theory is that fasting actually will help be a protective mechanism against cancer. And here's the thing, even if it doesn't, there's so many other benefits to the way you look and the way you feel and the way you operate that it'd be worth throwing some fasting in there. But we know now that it really does help with a lot of these things. There's the resources. I'm going to leave this up here. You guys can go dig up this. This video will actually be left up. So if you want to go back and hit pause and take a look, all these articles are about the benefits of fasting. Well, this is Dr. Matt Herba with a 7-Day Fasting Academy, and that is the 6 benefits of fasting.